What is up, everyone? Welcome to the Awesemo MMA Live Before Lock shows to get you ready for UFC Vegas number 40, which kicks off an hour from now from the UFC Apex there in Las Vegas. Yes, I'm back. For those who are not aware, I do work for the Buccaneers Radio Network, so that's why I could not be here on Thursday. But good news, just kind of looking at my little travel schedule here. I think I'm good for Live Before Locks and the strategy show for some time now. Of course, we are sponsored by Prize Picks. I'm just going to tell you, I was peeking at Prize Picks a little earlier on the show. Ooh, we have got some good lines over there. When you tell me, some people might call the Bellator prelims the human sacrifice hour. When you got some total fight time props there on the Bellator show, I'm just telling you, you got to check out Prize Picks, talk about Prize Picks later on in the show. But of course, we are here to talk UFC Vegas 40. If you got any questions on UFC Vegas 40, be sure to line those up right now over in the YouTube chat. You can also hit us up if you want to talk about the Bellator 268 betting lines as well. But of course, as always, I am joined by the fighter, Pete Rogers Jr. Pete, great show on Thursday. I was driving around yesterday here in Tampa, and I agreed with a lot of things you said. There were some things I was a little surprised about.
Okay. All right. I'm definitely interested to see what those could be. Welcome back. It's about time you feel like doing your job. I think we all missed you here, but I love doing shows with Josh, with Greg. It's cool. But of course we need the MMA reporter to come in and provide some insight.
Just saying, I learned on Wednesday night in Philadelphia, I need to have my vaccine card to walk into a bar. So I had to text the wife, say, hey, here's where the vaccine card is. Please take a picture of it so I can go out and have a couple of cocktails. And so I learned, and did the round of cheesesteaks. Let's just say that. We did the round of cheesesteaks.
Good. Okay. I was going to say, the bar is a bar. All right. But if you did not hit up a cheesesteak spot over in Philly, you're not doing yourself justice.
We hit 2 on Wednesday night, 1 on Thursday afternoon.
Nice. Dude, damn, you really hit them. Goodness gracious. Man, I don't blame you though. I did one time, go into Philly, and I didn't have enough time to stop and get a cheesesteak. So I definitely regret that till this day. Yeah.
So had a good time there. Always great when the Bucks go out there and get a win 5-1. And hey, I got a Sunday off, Pete. This is great, man. I can enjoy some MMA night with UFC and Bellator. Man, it's a great night. I will tell you, I was surprised you picked Norma Dumont.
It's a little bit of bias in my opinion too. So I think it's because Aspen Ladd, it's tough to trust her. She hasn't been in the cage in a while as well. And then when she's, attempted to make it into the cage, there seems to be some hiccups along the way, whether it's weight cut related, whether it's nutrition or whatnot. It's just hard for me to get my money behind somebody, for my parlays and straight up bets. I'm not really targeting that fight, but for DFS, I think that the salaries and the 5-round nature makes it a little bit interesting. And it's also, it comes down to the rest of the slate. There aren't too many underdogs that I feel super, super confident in. I like the power that Norma Dumont has. I like the takedown defense that she has. I think that she can be offensive with takedowns as well. I think she will push Aspen Ladd. The big thing is to never be underneath Aspen Ladd because she has amazing ground and pound. It's a matter of if you can avoid that and if you keep the fight upright. I like her chances. I think she's the better striker in this matchup. I think she might be even the more physical of the two. Aspen Ladd looked good on the scale, 10 pounds up yesterday. So, I'm interested to see how they clash. But I think that I'm going to have some exposure to the main event, of course, and I don't mind getting to the underdog.
That really is my question with Aspen Ladd is, look, I think she's a better grappler, but moving up 10 pounds, because look, she's a big bantamweight fighter. We've seen her struggle to make weight on the scale. So, if you tell me this fight plays out in the feet, I really like Norma Dumont. I think, but I look at Aspen Ladd, and when you see her have success, it's when she's able to use that grappling. So I was a little surprised there in terms of that. I will tell you, I did find making lineups tough for this card because there wasn't a lot of options under 8,000 that I really liked. I look at the co-main event And typically that's a fight that you're going to look at as a fight we need a target because of the pricing of 8,200 and 8,000 every week. You sit here and talk about how, so you got to prioritize underdogs in the main event, co-main event. I don't love either side in this one. I'm just going to say, when you look at Andre Arlovski,
Yeah,
he has gone the distance in 11 of his last 13 fights. And of course, Pete, I'm going to bring up the stat. The last time Andre Arlovski won a fight via stoppage, May 23rd, 2015. I went on Tapology. You had only had 3 pro fights at that point.
damn. Yeah, that definitely puts it into perspective. I was trying to convince myself earlier when I was making lineups. I didn't make too many. I went more of a sports betting perspective today in approach. But I entered a decent amount in the big $15 GPP. I was trying to convince myself that Arlovski could get the finish, and I just really couldn't get myself to get there. I think that if he doesn't get the finish, he probably doesn't pay off given the rest of the fights, and the volume and the aggressiveness isn't really always there. And he's not like he has takedowns in his back pocket and he's a submission kind of guy. We saw that, when he was taken down by Tom Aspinall, he was submitted relatively quickly, but I think that was more of a surprise factor than anything. I just don't think it's Andre Arlovski's style. He's more than happy to go to toe-to-toe with people and beat the younger guys at their best game. I think this is going to be a striking matchup that actually for heavyweights goes the distance or goes beyond that 2.5 round mark. So I'm okay with getting away from this fight. There were some times where I created beautiful lineups that I thought, and I was landing on either one of these guys, Arlovski or Felipe, and I'm like, I don't want to get there. And I think on a card like this, when we have few fights, we just lost the Jordan Wright, Julian Marquez fight. Now you're going to talk about everybody starting to chop and starting to duplicate lineups. I think you need to get away from spending all your salary. And we talk about it each week. It's okay to leave salary on the table.
And of course, on the other side of that fight, Carlos Felipe has gone the distance in all of his UFC fights. And Pete, I wanted to bring up this stat for you because I know you in Connecticut, you now have the ability to place a little wager. So I got some prop bets, some crazy prop bets thrown out to you. So right. Felipe has 2 split decisions, a unanimous decision, and a majority decision in the UFC. Now, of course, before he came to the UFC, he'd won 7 of his 8 fights via stoppage. So I don't know if you might want to just look on your app there, whatnot. Andre Arlovski via split or majority decision plus 600. Okay. Carlos Felipe via split majority decision plus 900. Goodness. This fight has split decision written all over it.
Yeah, it kind of does. It definitely does. I mean, you're going to have Felipe coming forward, marching forward, putting his hands up, kind of taunting Arlovski at times. They both exchange on the feet. When Felipe throws his combinations, they're excellent. It's just a matter of when he decides to throw them and how often he's going to throw. I think Arlovski will probably stay on the outside, pick him apart for majority of the rounds. And I agree with you. I think it's going to be a close contest, goes 15. And I could definitely see 2 judges siding it one way and this end up being a split decision. So I don't know if I first time betting in my state on this. I don't know if I'm going to reach to that. I think I have some other prop bets that I like, but I do agree with you. I think it's going 15.
Oh, I got another prop bet I really love. We'll talk about that here in a moment. Of course, appreciate everyone that's here on a Saturday afternoon watching Awesemo MMA live before lock. Of course, if you're not subscribed to Awesemo YouTube, you got to do that. We got to tell you great shows for you every day. Of course, NFL on the contrary was on a little while before us. Get you ready for tomorrow's slate of NFL action. By the way, speaking of NFL, if you're not also a Plus member, you want to get a little peek of what's behind the paywall, today's free premium day and tools, NFL Week 6 top stacks, MMA fighter rankings, and MLB top stack tools. So you got to check that out over at awesemo.com. If you're not Awesemo Plus member, we'll tell you about some great promos we got going on over at awesemo.com throughout the show. But there is a prop bet, man, I really like here today. Jim Miller wins round 1 plus 380. Let's go.
He's a round 1 guy, and it's kind of right up his alley. And I saw the weigh-ins yesterday, and Jim Miller looks like an aging body, of course, because he's been in the UFC probably as long as I've been alive. Eric Gonzalez doesn't really look to be in the best shape. I mean, he's not the most physical-looking guy or most physical imposing guy. I think that if Jim Miller implements some takedowns, where if you look back on his fight against Vince Pichel, he was clinching up with him and actually searching for it and getting in a decent position in round 1. If he does that to Eric Gonzalez, I like his chances of getting submission. So I think the round one prop is nice. I think the Jim Miller via sub is also pretty sneaky, but I think everybody's starting to really, attract towards that, and that's starting to diminish as time goes on. So you might want to start opening up your apps and targeting these prop bets as we go throughout the show.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you on the female fight. Afia wrote, I think you got to really like her. Has a chance to be something special in the UFC. The other ones that stick out to me, the one fight, I don't like this fight for GPP, unless you want to take a dart throw on Danny Roberts, but I do like Emeev as a cash play. The only concern I have with him is he has shown in his previous UFC fights of wearing down as the fight gets to the third round. Of course, he has gone to the decision in 7 straight fights, hasn't won a fight via stoppage since April of 2016. But he is a guy that I think I really like in cash, the potential, because look, I just don't think he's going to sit there and have a kickboxing matchup with Danny Roberts, because clearly that is Danny Roberts' path to win this fight. I just think he's going to try to take Danny Roberts to take down City. And, even though what we've seen in the UFC is a guy who goes 15 minutes, you get him about 4.5 to 1 to win via TKO KO.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, I think that, how last week Agapova came through when a lot of people were offer, including myself, for large majority of my lineups. And, when she lost that fight as like the biggest favorite of all time against Jana Dobson, I think everybody kind of hopped off the train. And this goes to show you that you can get sneaky by targeting opposite fighters that that the field's going to go. And that's what we call leverage. So in a situation like this, where everybody's kind of searching for all these other 9,000 options, I think that Ramazan Emeev is a nice little contrarian spend up option, where he could accrue, points via takedowns. We already know that's his game, but Danny Roberts has a susceptibility of getting wobbled, knocked out, and submitted. I think that Emeev, if he wants some job security, he's got to start changing the way that he fights, because when it comes to contract negotiations and renewing your contract, I think the UFC would be okay with moving on from him if he continues this type of, approach of blanketing his opponents. So I'm just saying that Emeev, I think, is sneaky. I target him in a few lineups where, everybody's going to want Ludovic Klein, and probably Loopy Godinez. I think that Emeev could be lost in the shuffle and possibly be a sneaky person to finish the fight.
And of course, almost 2 years away for competition from Danny Roberts. Hasn't fought since November of 2019. You mentioned about Loopy Godinez. I mean, the big thing about to me with that fight is she's at a major reach disadvantage in that fight. And Adam, saying, in the YouTube chat saying I like Godinez, but the size difference is a little worrisome here. Looking, and I was right in our office hours Slack channel earlier today, basically, like, if you want to be a Carolina backer in this one, you're just hoping this is a fight that plays out in range. If Godinez is able to get those takedowns like we saw in her last fight, obviously, second fight in 7 days for her. But you mentioned this on the strategy show. You like that thought process of like, hey, you just had a great performance, get right back in there.
Oh, 100%. If you could fight every 2 weeks or every month and you knew about it, how like you guys know, oh, well, next Sunday that we can go out there and we can redeem ourselves. That would be very, very nice. And I think that a lot of fighters could actually build on momentum and start to develop their skills. I think that this is perfect for Godinez. Despite the height and reach disadvantage in this matchup, there's also skill in will. And I haven't really seen the same amount of that in Carolina. I think that Godinez is going to be a step ahead in certain, perspectives of this fight where, certain sequences, if she's on the inside, she's going to be okay. If she's on the outside, then you can possibly see Carolina, throw head kicks, body kicks. She keeps her chin straight up in the air. And I think that her submission defense is somewhat lacking. So I think Godinez has multiple paths to victory. She could coast to a decision victory via, blanketing her opponent, getting on top, solidifying rounds with takedowns, or she could possibly search for a finish via TKO on the mat or submission. But, Luana Carolina is another fighter where I tried, like, each week before lock, I try to put myself where I'm trying to convince myself how these underdogs can come through. And I think that Luana Carolina is a very, very low percent person to come through in this matchup. Obviously and naturally, targeting underdogs in women's MMA is generally beneficial because it's very volatile. I just feel like we saw the skill set of Godinez last weekend. And if she employs that same game plan, I think it's going to be a rough night for Carolina.
One of the fights that I think is very critical, especially in terms of GPPs, I know you and Josh talked about this on Thursday, and that is the Andrew Sanchez Bruno Silva matchup. Here's my I think that Andrew Sanchez is a popular under 8,000 option because of what he can bring to the table, finishing ability. We've seen his submissions ability in the past. My only concern with on his side of the fight ultimately is that gas tank in round 3. But obviously there's a lot of things to like about Andrew Sanchez in this matchup, as long as your mindset is he's going to get the fight to the ground.
Yeah, he has to, in my opinion. Like, he needs to wear on his opponent because going in there against Bruno Silva, a guy who's knocked out Alexander Shlemenko, like I watched that fight just a couple minutes ago, and it's crazy that when he hits you, you feel it and you get rocked and you drop. And a guy who's been knocked out several times in the UFC, Andrew Sanchez, needs to be on his P's and Q's and needs to employ a grappling heavy approach. And I think he knows that, from his track record now, where if guys stuff the initial shots and he starts to get fatigued, he can get put out of there. So what did he do? He made an adjustment. He went out to AKA, which we don't know how the camp went. But when I hear that and I know how those practices are, I think they're going to have the correct game plan for him. It's just a matter of implementing it. He could go out there, he could train wrestling the entire time, and he could be gun shy because Bruno Silva cracks him right off the bat and makes him respect his power. But I think that Andrew Sanchez of the underdogs has possibly one of the best upsides, given the takedown nature of his game when he employs it. And he could possibly take Silva to the takedown city and get him out of there.
Another matchup that I think people are going to look to in terms of the underdogs, that's going to be Brandon Davis here, returning to the UFC. Of course, he's won 4 in a row. And, look, if he was going up against a wrestler, his opponent would be a core play for me, because he has shown the ability to not be able to stop the takedown in the UFC. He's been taken out at least one time in 6 of his 8 UFC fights. 6 times he got taken down by Zabit and Magomed Sharapov, 10 times against Enrique Barzola, of course, but he's not facing a guy that has shown that he wants to go for a takedown now. Of course, this could be a situation where that could be part of the game plan. I mean, look, any good coach is going to sit there and say, we're going up against a guy who can't stop a takedown. This is mixed martial arts. I think the one thing you would like about Brandon Davis, and I know you were talking to me about this before the show, of this is a fight that you expect to go 15 minutes. When I think Brandon Davis, one of the words I would describe him is durable. And if this fight plays out on the feet over 15 minutes, I don't mind getting to Brandon Davis, because there should be enough volume that, even at his price point and a 10-fight card, that he might still be able to get you enough points.
Yeah, I mean, if none of these other underdogs come through, I think a decision win. Obviously, he'll be a part of the optimal lineup. And I think given his style, it's in the realm of possibility where his cardio just starts to take over the fight. I believe like the guy runs an insane amount. For each camp, each day in camp, he runs an insane amount. He has solid striking. He has solid BJJ in his back pocket if it needs to get there. I think that he probably has the grappling advantage over Dana Bakary. But I mean, I think that it's not really much of an advantage. I think they're both traditional strikers. They're going to want to trade on the feet. We know how DraftKings scoring is. If there's no knockdowns, even if it's a 300 strikes thrown, you're still not going to have a grappling type of score. That's why Andrew Sanchez is a little bit more appealing. But a couple takedowns around or a couple takedowns in the fight could change that. I think that Brandon Davis is in my underdog pool. I put him in several lineups. I like him given the rest of the slate. There are some other volatile underdogs that I really feel like uneasy rostering. Brandon Davis is really not one of those guys. I think this is like a pretty close fight, and I think that he could easily pull the upset. Jason, we got 300 people in here. If you guys like what we're doing right now, if you guys can hit that like button, get us over 100, shoot your questions into chat. Props, anything, straight up bets, DFS, we got you.
Of course, we'll talk a little. If you've got any Bellator questions in terms of the betting lines over there, you got a Bellator card tonight. I mean, look, it could be a great night just sitting on the couch watching MMA UFC course starting here in 40 minutes from now. And then, of course, Bellator live tonight on Showtime. Of course, if you want to take advantage of a promo we got going on, if you're a new user of Also Plus Platinum, you want to use that promo code MMA Live Before Lock, all caps, one word, MMA Live Before Lock for 25% off your first week of Also Plus Platinum. Of course, when you get that top fighter tool, all the tools we have over awesemo.com, take advantage of that. Of course, if you just want to sign up for an MMA weekly pass, those packages you can get for $8.95, or you can get an Also Plus weekly pass, get you everything for $29.95. Stop guessing, start winning. Join Awesemo Plus today. When it comes to MMA, that top fighter tool is a tool that I'm looking at that top 6%, the chance of them going over 100 points. So be sure to take advantage of that promo we got going on over at awesemo.com. But Pete, it is that time to start getting into some questions. Like first over, saw in our Slack channel, FanDuel Cash, Baccarat and Maria Silva, or Bruno Silva and Danny Roberts.
Oh my God.
Not great B-side options in this one.
No, not at all. What's the rest of the lineup look like? I mean, it's kind of contingent on that. But
I mean, I might say Bruno Silva and Danny Roberts.
Mm-hmm.
The only reason I say I'd like to go the Danny Roberts side as opposed to the Bruno Silva side would be maybe he stops some takedowns, racks up some points that way.
Exactly. That's kind of what was the tiebreaker for me, because the second half of each of those duos are pretty ugly. But that's kind of what needs to be your tiebreaker when you're making your lineups on FanDuel is how is the platform scoring? Okay. And that needs to be, okay, who's going to possibly defend takedowns? And Danny Roberts, a guy coming from Sanford MMA, ever improving wrestling, you would hope. I think that he could stuff some of the takedowns or even be offensive. We've seen him try takedowns. It hasn't been successful, but he's tried them.
Yeah, of course. So if you got any questions, you're an Also Plus member. Of course, that's one of the great advantages of being an Also Plus member is our premium Slack channel. You can leave a question in there right now. We get over to a super chat from Michael saying, and Michael, appreciate you in the super chat. He says, 3 obvious fighters you love and hate in the MVP spot. So I was earlier today when I was putting together my spreadsheet, obviously I looked at the fighters who are getting significant ownership in terms of the MVP spot. No, not really surprising, but when I was looking at for the fighters that I really like as an MVP who are not in the top 2 there, Jim Miller really stuck out to me.
I'm glad you said that. I think that the way that he could win this fight on that platform with a quick win, he's priced cheap. He's probably going to be glossed over in that spot. I like it. I definitely, when I was looking at FanDuel, I was like, okay, he was definitely a part of my lineups and most of them.
Yeah, I mean, Baccarat, I think, is another one to potentially look at in terms of the MVP. Just trying to get away from the ownership. Obviously everyone's going to look at Aspen Ladd. They're going to look at Klein. I think when I look at the fighters I really love in that MVP spot, Miller, Fierro, I think is one put in there. I'm liking what I see in the ownership in terms of Bruno Silva as well. There, I think really when you're looking to get different, especially on a 10-fight slate, I would, Aspen Ladd's just going to be a popular play, and I would try to get away from that in terms of the MVP.
Yeah, I think that my girl Manon Fiorot could be sneaky all platforms. I think that in this matchup against Bueno Silva, she's going to light her up like a Christmas tree. And Bueno Silva is a good striker, pretty flat-footed though, has some power in her shots, but there's a significant speed advantage for Manon Fiorot. And I think that could really make Bueno Silva say, hey, this striking thing ain't working at all. I need to start to try to get her to the mat. And that's where we could get boosted totals over on FanDuel.
Next up, Roberts or Landwehr for cheap. I think this depends on platform.
I can make a case for both, truthfully, but let's hear what you got to say.
Look, I think Roberts I look at as more of a FanDuel play than a DraftKings play. Here's the thing about Nate Landwehr. This is a guy that there is not, I would say, a ton of American fighters that are just signing up and saying, give me your best Russian fighter in Russia.
It's true.
Because you just know you're coming in as a B-side. You know it. But the other side of it is when you look at his 2 losses in the UFC, both first-round knockouts. This is a guy that, look, he's going to swing for the fences. I mean, he's going to fight for your money. So I would probably look to go Nate more as a DraftKings play and Danny Roberts as a FanDuel play.
Yeah, that all makes sense. I can see where, I think the chalky spend up play is going to be Ludovic Klein, and naturally Nate Landwehr is going to be the lowest owned fighter on the slate. He has not been the most durable when you get knocked out against Julian Erosa, Herbert Burns, and now you're going up against a KO artist in Ludovic Klein, who looks extremely explosive. I think you're going to detract a ton of ownership from you and go towards the favorite. And I think that, it's a small sample size of Ludovic Klein, right? Like, he has one amazing highlight against Shane Young, but then against Michael Trezano, he looked more human. Now, can Nate Landwehr make him look human? Can he fatigue him? Can he get in the pocket and make this into a brawl? If that occurs, I think Nate Landwehr is live. And that's more of a live betting perspective and more of a live betting target than for me to get to him in too many of my GPPs, because to this point, Landwehr does look somewhat chinny. And if Ludovic Klein lands a solid shot, I think we're going to see a knockout again. If this turns into Ludovic Klein does not like the pressure and he starts to grapple, well, guess what? You just got out of the first round. And I think as long as Landwehr gets out of the first round, he's more dangerous.
So Joshua asked me when I'm hopping on some Warzone with Pete. I'm not a Call of Duty guy. I'm a sports video game player. When I do get the chance to play video games, I'm either hopping on Madden or I'm hopping on NBA 2K, and I'm just waiting for the day the college football game comes back. So when that comes back, that's going to take up a lot of my time.
Yeah, I'm always on Warzone. If you guys like Warzone and you like video games and whatnot, follow me on Twitch at Pete the Heat MMA. On Twitter at Pete the Heat MMA. Jason is at Jason_Floyd. I'm a gamer. So in my free time, I like to game, talk to everybody in chat and all that stuff. But yeah, we got a great MMA cards tonight between Bellator and the UFC. I was surprised that Bellator is on a Saturday, given, they try to shy away from that. But I think that if you look to get some easy money, you can combine the two. And that's something that I'm doing today, where I'm looking to combine Bellator and UFC. I think there's some pretty chalky plays. Yes, the odds are ludicrous, but when you start adding them to a parlay, it makes a ton of sense.
There are some great parlay pieces on the human sacrifice hour.
Oh my God. I know why you call it that, but at the same time, I was on the Bellator prelims, so
okay, you were the A side of those fights.
Okay,
you were the one brought in to destroy the dude in under a minute. Come on.
Okay.
Look,
okay.
When you let's just look at the Bellator betting odds. We got favorites of -650, -950, -600, -550, -430, -340, -205.
Yeah. That's just how Bellator is, right? And Bellator always seems to put on somewhat one-sided fights besides the main event. And, being on the regional scene, when you see upsets on the prelims, it's pretty rare.
Yeah. I mean, look, the main event, you got a 5-1 betting favorite. Vadim Nemkov, who there are some people out there, Pete, that I've had the conversation with, believe there is a legit argument. The best light heavyweight fighter in the world right now, since John Jones is a heavyweight, is Vadim Nemkov.
I love Vadim, and he's part of my parlay. I understand that his opponent isn't an easy opponent, but I think that there's levels, and his striking and just well-roundedness. You saw it against Phil Davis. When you beat Phil Davis twice, Phil Davis is a monster. I think that, it goes to prove how legitimate you really are.
Sam asking about do we think Brandon Davis looked bad on the scale, cuts too much weight? Yeah, he's always been a guy that cuts a ton of weight.
Who are we talking about?
Brandon Davis.
He's tall, right? He's like pretty damn tall for the weight class. He's 5'10", 72-inch reach at 135 pounds. He's very lengthy for the weight class. But I tell you what, don't think that that's really going to affect his cardio. This guy has an endless gas tank. He really does. Endless gas tank, runs like crazy. I think he runs like a half marathon every day or something ridiculous like that. Yeah, he's a workhorse, and that's where I start to ignore the weigh-ins when I know a fighter like Brandon Davis.
Yeah. Next up, Miles says, who's going to take down City? The easy answer to me is Danny Roberts.
I like that. Yeah. And I think that Bruno Silva could also go to Takedown City.
Norman Dumont, I think, is another one in that consideration as well.
Yeah, you think so? You think that
To me, that's Aspen Ladd's best way to win this fight.
Well, yeah, it definitely is. But I don't know if Aspen Ladd can keep it up. We'll have to see. I have exposure to both, but I am siding with the underdog. I will say that the first fight of the night is a fight where I believe Carnelossi might be one of the chalkiest plays on the slate. She's mid-priced. We lost Julian Marquez. People are looking for an easy piece to put in their lineups. I put Carnelossi almost everywhere. I really like her, but I am worried about how she doesn't move her head, and she keeps her head on the center line, and she ate a right hand and was dropped in her last fight. Estela Nunes, if she has a path to victory, despite her lack of finishing ability, she has strong striking. I mean, she's a former kickboxing champ with 50 victories and 5 losses. I think that Estela Nunes, when I was watching her, despite her absence from the cage, I was watching her pad work and bag work. I'm like, this girl has pop. If she touches Carnelossi, I'm a little nervous. So I put Estela Nunes in one lineup, and I think she's a fighter that could break the slate because nobody's going to want to target that wild card who's just coming over into the UFC.
Legalize over our Slack wants to give a review of a lineup he's put in here. So he's got Dumont, Carolina, Fioraut, Emeev, Klein, and Davis.
I like it besides Luana, Carolina, and I think the reason is because I'm not siding so much with the stature of her in this fight. I'm siding with the skill. I think a lot of people will say, Luana's going to be at her natural weight class, where Loopy's stepping up on short notice, up a weight class, bigger frame fighter. It makes sense. It makes sense for one of your lineups. I don't know how heavy you're going to go on it. I just think that Loopy's going to be a little bit better than Carolina, who doesn't really seem like she has much of a ground game.
Corey, appreciate you in the super chat saying thoughts on the first fight of the night and the Orlovsky and Felipe fight. I'll talk about the co-main event. I just don't like this. And for a GPP, I think if you want to play that, it's a cash lineup. I just don't think there's going to be a ton of volume in the fight. I think the fight's going 15 minutes. So I think that you got to be realistic with yourself. This could be a 65, 70 point score for the winner and like a 35, 40 point, potentially for the loser. So I don't really love the co-main event in terms of GPPs. And if you just want to kind of go on the first fight of the night, you kind of talked a little bit there. I know you mentioned about earlier, expecting Carnelossi to be a very popular play.
Yeah, I like Carnelossi, and the reason I like her a lot is because I think that she's the more well-rounded fighter. In addition to striking, where she has excellent combinations, she can also, take it to the mat, where she's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, has good takedowns, good top pressure. That's the easiest way to beat Estela Nunes. Nullify her striking, put her on her back. She's been submitted via anaconda choke in the past. My dog, Marty's freaking out over here. But I think that
giant dog you have now.
Yeah. Let's see if we can get Marty up here. Let's look at the monster. Remember that day we did the podcast with little Marty? Now look at him. He's a beast.
And what's he, 7 months old? 6 months old?
He's only 7 months old, man. He's huge.
Yeah, I've seen some of the pictures you put up there. I'm like, good Lord, what is Pete feeding this dog?
Yeah, we feed him good. We
just going to give him prime
food.
Ribs every day?
No. We make all the dog food. And I don't know. The boy's got an appetite. I can't help it.
You make the food?
My girlfriend does. I can't say I do.
Okay.
She
All
does.
right.
She's a nutrition and health freak and whatnot. And when one of our dogs started having really bad side effects to hard dog food, that's when we started to look into creating, making our own. And we haven't stopped. It's been like 6 months now.
Clearly, I can tell.
Yeah, my boy's big. But yeah, to kind of circle back on the first fight of the night, it does view me as a sneaky spot for Estela Nunes, a chalky spot for Ariana Carnelossi. As long as she can wear damage well in this matchup, I really, really like her. I hope that she comes through, because if she doesn't, she's going to ruin a lot of my parlays.
Next up, who's throwing them bungalows? I think you gotta several candidates for this one.
Yeah, I mean, let's hear the ones that you're saying.
Bruno Silva's at the top of that list.
Oh yeah, 100%.
You know, the other ones that I would look at, I think you got to look at Fioraut. I mean, Carlos Felipe is going to try to throw them bungalows. I don't know if he's going to land what the high success rate is going to be.
If he hits Andrei Arlovsky with a combination, I mean, Arlovsky has looked somewhat durable as of late, and there was a period of time where he did not at all. It looked like a gust of wind would knock him down, but I think that's more of a credit to the people and caliber that he was fighting. And we haven't really seen Felipe put people away in the UFC. Lands great combinations. I think Arlovsky will be able to handle it. So it's, like I said, it's one of my least favorite fights on the card to get exposure to. But if you want a contrarian approach, maybe you want to target that fight more. It's heavyweight MMA at the end of the day. And generally, heavyweight MMA is a part of the optimal lineup.
Let's see here. Next up. What, speaking of Carlos, Andrew asked about, chances to score big. I mean, look, I think that this is one of those cards you can't avoid any fight. I really, outside of the co-main event, I really don't want to avoid any fight. But Carlos is going to be very popular.
Yeah. It's you can't really avoid any fight on this. It's just a matter of being overweight to some that you have a great feeling about, and being underweight to others. I'll tell you what, the Bakary and Davis fight, it's not that I'm getting away from it. I just view that fight as going the distance. Like, yeah, Davis has been rocked on the feet. Bakary in his past 2 fights has found knockout power. But if you look, at his career in total, he's not really a KO guy. I mean, he has power, but this seems like a bantamweight fight that'll reach 15 minutes.
Who's a better pick in DraftKings, Jim Miller and Klein, or Loopy and Fioraut? I would go the Miller Klein angle just because of, looking at GPPs. Look, my concern with Loopy is just the size reach disadvantage she has, and that she's got to be able to close that distance and coming up in weight.
Yeah. There are concerns for me with Loopy. Just simple concerns. If she decides to stay on the outside and strike, how does she do? But I think that the first lineup is the better of the two. I love Manon Fiorot she's going to put on a hell of a display of mixed martial arts. She can implement takedowns, and she does have that tendency at times, which is a little bit dangerous against a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt in Bueno Silva. Like, I don't want her to do that at all. I want her to stay on the feet, just use her speedy combinations and pick her apart. But if she does that, Jason, she lands a high total, she combines some takedowns together, we could be looking at a fighter that gets a sneaky high score at 8,900.
Next up, Spencer asking, or excuse me, Claybon asking, favorite play. It's hard for me not to say Fioraut.
Yeah, I love Manon Fiorot. I think that her skill set's amazing. We haven't seen her on her back. We haven't seen her have to deal with adversity, so that's always a little troublesome. Bueno Silva has power. She really does, but she started to get outstruck on the feet at times against Montana De La Rosa. Let me tell you, De La Rosa is not the striker that Manon Fiorot is, and she throws beautiful straight punches, combinations. That's probably my easy answer as well. My favorite fighter on the card is Manon Fiorot. I don't think I was really telling anybody much.
Yeah. Next up, Chandler says Ladd and Davis or Bruno Silva, Carlosi, FanDuel Cash already have Dumont.
Well, if he already has Dumont, then I really don't want to go to a stack. And I don't like stacks in GPPs. In cash, it's viable. So it also depends on the size of your contest, right? Like, you need that to go into the third round and beyond for it to really be viable. 10 fights can definitely happen.
Well, and the other thing on FanDuel is you're not getting a salary discount on Dumont either, like you're getting over on DraftKings.
Yeah, that's true. That is true.
In terms of that, Ladd Davis or Bruno Silva, Carnelowski, yeah, it's I would go Silva, Carnelowski.
Yeah, I like Silva and Carnelowski.
Yeah. Someone asking about Prize Picks. Of course, they are the sponsor of this show. I will tell you, I was over on Prize Picks earlier on today, and immediately I sent a text to Pete going, oh boy, I'm doing a little research for the show, checking out Prize Picks with their over-under contest. And when we're talking about MMA, the first thing I'm looking at is those total fight times. And look, we could joke about the Bellator prelims. I'm just saying, I'm looking at all these Bellator prelim fighters on these. Oh, I'm looking at a bunch of unders. Jalen Bates, 7.5 fight minutes. Give me under.
Yeah, he's nasty.
Sullivan Cauley, 5 minutes. Give me under. I think he's going to win via stoppage in the first round. A training partner of Ryan Bader, second pro fight here. Lance Gibson, even though he can be a little bit kind of, a grinder, give me the under 10 minutes. I think he's in a showcase fight. Carl Albrechtsen, 12.5 minutes. Give me the under in that one. I'm like a lot of unders over there.
Damn.
Now, look, when we're talking about Klein, 8.5 minutes, I'd probably go the under in that one just because of the volatility here. Like, look, I can get you 5 players over there on Prize Picks, Pete, man. I'm like, Prize Picks, come make me some money today.
Yeah, right. Hey, if you guys are able to play Prize Picks in your state, definitely hop on it. It's fun. I'm unable to. I wish I could, but yeah, especially now with Bellator being there, the under time, I think it's a no-brainer to target, especially if you have a good read on the fight, their opponent, and everything. So combine everything. Bellator, UFC. Let's have a nice mixed martial arts day. Let's make some money.
And the great thing you can do is that you can use our NFL and MLB player props to help create your lineups over there at Prize Picks. And be sure when you sign up, use that promo code Awesemo, as they will match your first deposit up to $100. That's promo code Awesemo. Yeah, man, I'm checking that out this morning. And I'm like, oh, you got me some Bellator props up there. And it's pretty much all the preliminary card. Oh man. Oh, I was over here going, Sullivan Cauley. That's the guy to watch out for in the Bellator prelims.
Really? Okay. All right. I like it.
1-0 fighter. Training partner of Ryan Bader. He is someone to pay attention to there. Carl Brexton is probably going to try to go to Takedown City here in his fight matchup. But yeah, when I saw that number 7.5 on Jalen Bates, that is another guy. Remember that name.
I think he's good. And I added him I did a Bellator only parlay. Let's hear if you like it. All right. I'm going to hit you with it.
All righty.
I got 4 picks. Jalen Bates, Gibson Jr.
Yep.
Okay. Vadim Nemkov.
Like it.
Corey Anderson. I like Corey today, bro. I like Corey.
I think it's a coin flip fight. My concern really is just that overhand right coming from Ryan Bader with him.
Yeah,
look, you tell me. And earlier in a podcast I did, so we got asked to make a pick. I did pick Corey Anderson, but I think it's a 50-50 fight.
I like Corey a lot today. I think that he just presents a more well-rounded skill. Well, his opponent is Ryan Bader's really good, and he has good power. I just think that the grinding nature of Corey Anderson can wear on him and zap that power. You get outside of round 1. I think it's Corey Anderson's day, fight all day long. But I understand what you're saying. I think Ryan Bader had a hell of a run. He looked great for a while, was dominating the competition in Bellator, but I think it might start to go in Anderson's favor. He has looked incredible since he's come over to Bellator.
I'll just say this, when you compare the UFC and Bellator main cards today, Bellator's got the better card.
Ooh, that's a bold one.
No, that ain't bold, bro.
No, it's not bold. I'm looking at the main. Yeah, no, it's not. I mean, you got Andre and Jim Miller on the same main card. They're serviceable, but it's 2021.
I saw the stat. Jim Miller, this is his 37th UFC fight.
He's out of his mind. And
no. How about this one? Never missed weight.
I love it. That's what we call a professional. And I can't stand it when I see people miss weight. Now, Jason, what do you think about this? How the UFC basically, Aspen Ladd screwed them over last weekend or 2 weeks ago and looked horrible on the scale. and now they offer her this fight a weight class up. Do you think that's somewhat like, are they rewarding her by offering another fight, or is this like they're putting her in a bad position? Because to me, like, you're somewhat doing her a favor and allowing her to get back under your good graces.
I question the people around Aspen Ladd.
Yeah.
I have a lot of questions about the people that go back to 2 weeks, 3 weeks ago. How long ago is? Why are you putting her on the scale when you know she looks like that? Do you have people in your corner that care about you?
Right.
And so I mentioned this tweet earlier this week on my show, and I'll mention it to you here. It was from Chris Cyborg, and it was her responding to this matchup being booked. And she wrote, hopefully her body's electrolytes are being looked at. My significant weight cuts made a quick turnaround unsafe.
It's a good point, Cyborg. I mean,
she would know.
Yeah, she would know exactly. She would know probably better than most of these fighters, especially in women's MMA, cutting tons of weight. Yeah, so we'll have to see. We'll have to see how Aspen Ladd looks. I'm banking on that she's not going to look amazing. That's kind of what a lot of my lineups are relying on.
I'm at the point now that I think there has to be a lot of questions about Aspen Ladd. Is it a healthy decision to try to make 136?
No, it's over. That ship has sailed, Jason. There's no way.
So why is her team letting her try it?
Yeah, I don't know.
Do you just have yes people in your corner and you don't have someone in your corner that's going to be completely honest with you?
Yeah, I mean, it's true.
Her team has gotten so defensive about people questioning her. It just, man, it raises a lot of questions to me about the people in her corner.
Get you fired up. I like it, man, because it goes to show that.
Like, how many times have we seen this, Pete? Like, the one fight that I constantly go back to, Junior Dos Santos, Cain Velasquez too. Did anyone in Junior's corner give an F about him?
Yeah. Because
clearly they did not, by allowing him to continue to go out there and honestly probably took years off his career.
Yeah, 100%. That's the thing about this, right? Is you make one wrong move or one wrong decision and you could pay for it the rest of your career. Like you could go in there, suffer a brutal injury. You could go in there, get the break speed off you. You could, be a lesser version of yourself every fight going forward. So, yeah, me being a cornerman, me being a coach, that pisses me off completely. So.
Look, it's one of those things of, and this in MMA, we just don't have a culture of the corner stopping a fight. I mean, we could probably on one hand think about the amount of times we've seen a coach stop a fight in the UFC.
It needs to happen more, Jason. It really does. If you care about your fighter, it needs to happen more.
Yeah, I mean, the one that sticks out in my mind was Trevor Whitman for Nate Marquardt, where he stopped the fight. And then people forget because literally as Josh Thompson was knocking out Nate Diaz back in the day, Nick threw in the towel.
Yeah, I know.
And while throwing in the towel is not in the unified rules, I've had every regulator tell me they will honor the white towel.
Of course, they better.
In the unified ruls.
Imagine a ref not honoring that, or something. It would be asinine. It would be crazy.
I remember in going to Bellator when Douglas Lima was leg kicking the crap out of Rick Hahn. Faraz Zahabi jumped up and threw in the towel to stop the fight to save Rick Hahn.
Yeah, you need to do that. Yeah, like, oh goodness. But yeah, you can see that this got us fired up, got Jason fired up. But we care about this sport, guys. We're involved in it. Like we both are passionate about mixed martial arts, and the last thing we want is the health and safety of fighters and everything to be effective. Like we don't want anything bad to happen to anybody. And I'm telling you, one of these days it's going to happen because everybody thinks, not me. It's not going to happen to me. Yeah.
Man, it's one of these things. I just, every time I see a fighter just get beat up, I'm just like, stop the fight. Even though I will tell you, I had, oh God, no, why his name slipped my head. Had the nasty cut on his head. Damon Jackson on my show this week.
Oh yeah.
And we were joking about the fact of when they come in the third round to look at the cut. And I was like, yeah, doc's like, no, he's good. Yeah, he's just gushing out blood, but yeah, he's good.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised that the doctor, yeah, he can fight. I was like, oh, okay, perfect. Yeah, but that's the cool thing, Jason, is how you always grabbing these fighters after their wins, their losses to come on your show. You guys definitely have to check out Jason's channel,
I'm
the
good.
MMA Report. He's got everything over there.
Yeah, I got to put up the videos for all the interviews, but I will tell you, had a very interesting conversation with Chris Gutierrez,
Okay.
where quite frankly he talks about Mark Montoya saved his life.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He kind of got into that in the post-fight a little bit, the post-fight interview, which I thought was touching, and I thought it was perfect to actually give his coach credit.
He took it to the. I said, I was like, well, what if you never went to Factory X? And he said, he goes, I don't know if I'd be here.
Yeah.
And I've had a chance to talk to Chris, and Chris has, he's going through a very nasty custody battle, outside of fighting. So that's where a lot of that comes from there. Let's see here. Get some other questions in here. It's just a question from Legal Eyes. Emeev or leave $600 and go Jim Miller?
I think
Emeev's a safe play, but I think your ceiling is much higher potentially for Jim Miller.
Yeah, I've left salary on the table just to avoid chalky lineups, and I think that's going to be a part of the optimal. If a 50K lineup comes through, you're going to split with probably 300 people.
Of course, I want to mention about another promo we got going over at Awesemo.com. It is our cross-check promo. Of course, the NHL is back, and you can get started with some NHL DFS for only $3 when you use a promo code CROSSCHECK. That's CROSSCHECK, all caps, one word at checkout for 75% off your first week of Awesemo. Plus, NHL gives you access to everything we have to offer for NHL DFS, player projections, ownership projection, top stacks, liability, and so much more. Of course, be sure to check out that. The offer is valid through October the 18th, and you got to check out all the videos we have for NHL to get you ready to help you develop your lineup. NHL is one of my favorite live sporting events to go to. I absolutely love watching NHL live. And you never think Tampa, Florida, hockey town, but yeah, man, people here in Tampa, we love of course, it does help. We have a really great team too.
Yeah, exactly. It definitely helps. It's tough. Like if you live in Detroit or something and you're a Lions fan, it's like, Lions find a way to lose every week. Jason, now, did you disagree with me a lot on some of these fight picks? Is there somebody, because we missed you on Thursday, is there something that we missed that is a little bit more appealing in your eyes that you're trying to target today, or you think that somebody could be a little sneaky?
I'd rather go the Aspen Ladd route than the Norman Dumont route. But okay. I understand taking Dumont to save the $600 there. But it's my way saying, hey, Aspen Ladd's gonna get takedowns. I mean, that's the big thing with that one. But like when of course when it comes to my straight up picks, I'll go down Aspen Ladd, Andre Arlovsky.
Yeah,
don't feel good either way with that one. Jim Miller, Fierro, Klein. I'm going to go the Bruno Silva route. Concerned about the gas tank with Andrew Sanchez, Emeev, Godinez, Batgirl, and Carnelosi. I don't really like a lot of underdogs in today's spot. I just don't think this is a great UFC card when we're in terms of looking at the underdogs.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's fair. The wild card of the card is definitely Estela Nunes. Doesn't have a box score. A lot of people will be, a little hesitant about putting her in there. She has a path if she hits the very hittable Carnelosi. I just think that Carnelosi is the more well-rounded mixed martial artist. I like those picks, Jason. I was surprised that I didn't want to get to Aspen Ladd.
Yeah. Try to get some quick ones to get out of here. Of course, Phil will be joining me here in a couple minutes for the NASCAR strategy show. Carnelosi or Ladd on DraftKings?
Carnelosi.
More points for a late slate captain, Bruno or Dumont. I'm guessing.
Ooh.
Looking at Bruno Silva, I'm guessing.
Wow.
No, it's got
Bruno Silva is a sneaky FanDuel play. If you think about it, Sanchez is probably going to be shooting for his life, and he could get him out of there. He could finish him.
Yeah. Just try to get down here a little bit. Does Carnelosi have a grappling upside?
No.
Roberts Landwehr or Bruno Silva?
So I mean,
$300 plays there.
Yeah, I guess. I'll go Bruno Silva, but I mean,
Miller, Karnolowski, DraftKings.
Miller.
Sanchez and Davis or Silva, Roberts, DraftKings cash.
First one.
Okay. Does Gonzalez have a path to victory against Miller?
He does. And it's be aggressive. Get Miller out of round one. Take advantage of him. Land hard combinations. Test that cardio of him. And possibly win rounds 2 and 3. But I don't see it happening.
Samuel asking for the usual questions. We'll kind of end on that note there. My top 2 GPPs that I would look at, I would go Jim Miller and Fierro. Cash would be Emeev and probably Klein. In terms of MVP, I like Jim Miller over. That's one. Bruno Silva, I think, is another one to potentially look at there. What was the number set on over-under finishes?
I think he said 6.5.
Ooh.
I'm going to say under.
Yeah, I think if it was 5.5, I'd probably say over.
Sam's such a bad bookie.
Look, there's some fights that I think you got to look at as potential finishes. Carlos Nunez, Silva, Sanchez, Fierro, Silva, Miller, Gonzalez, I think would be my top ones looking at fights that could finish.
I like it, brother.
So, of course, UFC Vegas will be starting here in a couple of minutes over there, of course, on ESPN Plus. Of course, coming up next will be myself and Phil. Get you ready for tomorrow's NASCAR race. Also, we've got the Prize Picks NFL show come up here later on today. Pete, anything you want to mention before we get out of here?
No, we just want to say thanks, guys. Thanks for checking us out. And tune into the fights across both promotions between UFC and Bellator, and hit us up on Twitter. Let us know how it goes.
Of course, keep it locked here to Awesemo.com. Coming up next is the Awesemo NASCAR Strategy Show. Good luck today with your MMA lineups. And, well, I'll talk to you in a couple minutes on the NASCAR show. Have a good day, everybody.